Welcome to Riding Counsel with Rich Jaffe, where the open road meets expert advice. I'm Richard Jaffe, an attorney and biking enthusiast, and this is the podcast where we dive into the world of motorcycling, safety, culture, charitable giving, and riding right. So, whether you're a seasoned rider or just getting started, let's talk bikes, the road, and everything in between. Let's ride! What's up, everybody in ridingcounsel.com podcast land? Hello. I don't know why I keep doing this with my hands, but I like it. I like
joining in.
Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to ridingcounsel.com podcast. I am your host, Richard Jaffe. I am a personal injury lawyer, and I represent people who are injured as a result of the negligence of others, mostly people who are riding motorcycles and get hurt because the cagers crash into you. It happens a lot, and I'm really sorry it does, and I appreciate everybody who's called me. It's a big responsibility, and I appreciate it, and it does weigh a little heavy on my mind that everybody out there is somewhat taking on the danger of getting hit by cars. But I am a personal injury lawyer. I am a motorcycle enthusiast, and I'm a podcaster here on ridingcounsel.com. And if it's your first time listening, welcome. And if you are a return listener, thank you for coming and listening. I ask everybody, though, please do me a favor: like, share, subscribe, help a brother out,
comment.
I need you. Yeah, and comment. I answer every single comment, so do that. And you can always get in touch with me at ridingcounsel.com, ridingcounsel.com. And I'm going to be talking about some interesting things today. But before I start in on that, I want to introduce to you my good friend and co-host, Million. Hello, Million. How you doing?
Hi, Rich. Hey to everybody out there. Hope everyone is well. We got a fun topic today, man. We're talking about Good Samaritan Laws. Like anything else, it's whenever the law comes up, it's like laws are written and things are put in place because people tend to do things. And, it's why there's warning labels on stuff like, don't use the chainsaw on the roof because somebody has done it and,
right.
We have to account for it. So this is going to be a good one. I can tell already.
Right. Well, don't let chainsaws in operation touch the skin. Just
generally good advice. Yes.
Right. Free advice.
That's why you're the lawyer.
Yeah.
That's why
everything is free.
Yep.
And by the way, if you need a consultation from me as a lawyer, that's free. You want free stuff. If you want a review of your insurance policy, let's say, if you want me to take a look at your insurance policy, free. It's a free review. Just hit me up and I will do that for free, because a lot of people, what they do is they'll go online and say, what's the cheapest? And, that's okay. I'm not, just, you want to get, you want to be informed about what you're getting so you can make good choices, because let's say for another like $10 a month, you can get like super duper coverage and you don't know that. Well, you'd probably spend the $10 a month. So just, I'll take a look at it for you, but that's free. If you want these cool lights, these are like alert hazard lights you can carry in your saddlebags while you're riding a motorcycle. That's free. A lot of free stuff. But today, aside from the free stuff, is my free talk on the Good Samaritan Laws of New York. And this is kind of cool. Every state has them. I did mention New York because that's where I'm based out of, but I am licensed in several states, DC, Florida, New Jersey, just to give a couple. Good Samaritan Laws. What is the Good Samaritan Law? What is that?
All right, I got a great one for you.
Okay.
I am a huge fan of the movie The Incredibles. I love Pixar movies. I love The Incredibles specifically. The superheroes were doing their thing, right? Next thing you know, someone decides to sue one of the superheroes that actually saved their life. And that's how this whole thing started, where they had to go in hiding. And I remember I guess it's the attorney in the press conference going, Mr. Sansweet did not want to be saved. He did not. And Mr. Incredible's like ready to lose his mind. He actually sued him for helping him. And I was like, okay, that's what kicked off this whole thing. So the Good Samaritan Law is almost like your superhero shield in a lot of ways, because if you're trying to help somebody that's in trouble, that maybe they crash, they pass out or something like that, that if you reasonably try to assist without being reckless or expect money or something like that, that you'll be legally protected. You won't get in trouble. And unless you make like a big mistake on purpose of some kind, but generally that's not how people are. People, I think, as a whole, want to help and are willing to help. But it's for outside hospitals where there's the streets or crashes or anything like that. So what exactly, expound on that further, like, what is the Good Samaritan Law in New York and why was it created? Because we were just talking about why laws come into existence. So let's start there.
All right. Well, first, let me be really cool. And for you YouTube listeners, you have an advantage here because you're going to be able to see this really cool feature of the podcast where I could throw up the actual law of New York called the Good Samaritan Law.
Oh,
Boom.
this is great.
Shazam. And for the listeners, I'm going to read the pertinent parts here of the New York State Public Health Law, Section 3000-A. And I'm not going to read the whole thing because there's a lot of legalese. I'm going to get to the meat and bones. It says, in pertinent part, any person who voluntarily, okay, that's one, voluntarily, and without expectation, that's two, of monetary compensation, renders first aid or emergency treatment at the scene of an accident or other emergency outside of a hospital, doctor's office, or any other place having proper and necessary medical equipment to a person who is unconscious, ill, or injured, shall not be liable for damages for injuries alleged to have been sustained by such person, or for damages for the death of such person alleged to have occurred by reason of an act or omission in the rendering of such emergency treatment, unless it is established that such injuries were or such death was caused by gross negligence on part of such person. Wow. Okay, that's a mouthful. It's a mouthful. Okay. Let me try to boil this down. If you see somebody hurt and it's not in like a hospital and you're not getting paid for it, okay, if you see somebody hurt and you run voluntarily with your Superman cape on to help them, then you're not going to get sued unless you really like try to hurt them. Like if you run over with a knife and stab them while they're already hurt, well, yeah, you're going to get sued. Okay. Or if you're pretending to be a doctor and you like do stuff like try to open their throat or something like that and stick a straw down. I don't know.
With a penknife or something.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're like MacGyver and you do something really dumb, yeah, you're going to get sued because that would be what the law has called, egregious, or what's the actual word that they used? Gross negligence. And so gross negligence, you really got to mess up. Like you got to want to. But if you see, let's say you're cruising around on a motorcycle and you're out west, or you're, I don't know, in the mountains, and you see somebody crashed and they're hurt on the side of the road, go help them. You're not going to get sued. And this is the law that protects you. This is the Good Samaritan Law that will protect you. So it's okay to help people. And in fact, bikers have this code anyway, where first, if you see a helmet behind a motorcycle, like in the middle of the road, or on the shoulder, that's a signal to other bikers that you're in distress and you need help. But if you're in a crash, obviously you're going to need help because you see the crash, and, bikers do help bikers, and, it's like an unwritten thing. But a lot of people out there, especially the old timers, are thinking, oh, it's a changed world. I'm going to get sued. I'm not stopping. This is the law that will protect you. So stop, help people, be good, be a good biker. I mean, everybody, when they're riding and they pass other bikers, usually you get the two fingers down, like an upside down peace sign. It means like, two wheel, like rubber side down, like that's like the greeting, like, hey, we're all like one family. So live up to it. Help your fellow biker. I mean, dare I say, even if they're in a car and there's an accident and, you rush to help them, you're not going to get sued because you helped them. So don't think of that. Like if you're giving CPR, oftentimes, and I know this because I used to be a paramedic. I was a paramedic for a while. If you're going to give somebody CPR, you're probably going to crack their ribs. That's the way, that's the way CPR is given, especially on older people where there's frail, where they're frail and there's, brittle bones, you're going to crack a rib. You're not going to get sued for that. You're not going to get sued for that. So don't be scared of these things, and please, like, run and help them. That's the law respects life. It's just like a codification of what bikers already know, what motorcyclists already know. Like, we're one big family and we help each other. So that's the
What
law.
type? Sorry, excuse me. What type of emergencies besides medical stuff would a Good Samaritan law cover? For instance, like if somebody was maybe trapped and just needed to get out without a actual injury, or maybe like a road rage incident and there's someone in danger of being harmed in some way. Does this extend to beyond medical?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question. And I think that's a gray area that's not really well defined by this particular law. But I would say, look, if there's a road rage incident, first of all, any road rage is dumb. Okay. You're just dumb because why are you raging? Because you're insulted by somebody in a car or a motorcycle? Your feelings are hurt. So you want to put other people's lives in danger. I mean, dumbest thing ever. Okay. That's just my take on it. Like, if you're on a motorcycle and there's a car and you're feeling road rage either from the car or within yourself, do me a favor, take yourself out of the situation, back away from the situation, because a car versus a motorcycle, car is going to win. Flash, news flash. The car is going to win, right? But I would say if there's road rage, like, and you're on a motorcycle, the law is not going to protect you if you intervene right then and there when nobody's hurt. It's only if somebody's hurt will they really protect you, because when you're hurt, the law says, or the law values life, and they want you to go help that person. So if they're a victim of road rage, meaning they're hurt from the road rage, yeah, go help them and you're protected. But if the road rage is happening like on the road and you want to somehow get between two cars to, stop them from trying to cut each other off, I don't think the law is going to help you there.
So does this apply to medical professionals? Like you were saying, did some paramedic stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're driving and you see something like this and you step in, do you have like a broader like freedom to do stuff, or is it apply the same to a standard person? Like, how would that work?
The way, as a paramedic, well, first I was an EMT, right? So just to be clear, right? So because I don't want to be misleading, okay? Sure. And I don't want to use the word allegedly every sentence that I say. So for clarity, okay, I am no longer I let my license expire, but nonetheless, I first was an EMT. That stands for emergency medical technician. Mm-hmm. Then I sort of graduated through the ranks, got more, schooling and stuff like that. And I was an AEMT-CC, and I think I could put a bunch of other initials there, but it stands for Advanced Emergency Medical Technician with Critical Care Qualifications. It basically means that I can give drugs to people, I could shoot them up, I can call in helicopters, I could slice their throats open and shove a tube down their throat. So and I wasn't paid, but I would have to be operating as that kind of professional. I would have to be operating under the directions of a medical professional, right? So because I'm no longer licensed, I'm not operating under a medical professional, who sets out the, all the rules that I'm supposed to do. And I am essentially a volunteer. And I would qualify under the Good Sam laws. I would be protected if I rush up to somebody and try to help them. I think my prior training would help me. I'm certainly not paid. I don't expect payment, and it's certainly voluntary. The only thing that I wouldn't really be protected under is, if I'm trying to do something that I don't know how to do, like if I take out my butter knife and I try to move their appendix, if I try to take that out, that would not be covered, those kind of crazy things would not be covered. But I think I would be covered if I tried to help somebody on the side of the road.
Well, like for someone like me, like I don't have that level of training, but like I'm CPR certified. I've been trained how to use like a defibrillator as part of some things that I do here. So in a case like that, I have some element of training, but someone breaks a leg and you start hooking up an AED to them, then that's probably going to be pretty gross negligence. But that's like you were saying earlier, something about like breaking ribs, or you got to shock someone with an AED, or somebody maybe is helping you administer the CPR and they have their hands on the person when you fire off the AED.
Yeah.
I would assume in cases like that, you're probably still covered. I mean, it's part of that whole process, but
Right.
just, a lot of people are just CPR certified in general. So how's that apply to them in that situation?
Honestly, just keep that question in mind, because I just had like this vision flash through my head.
Sure.
And this is my show, so I could say anything I want. I don't really like cats. I'm a dog guy, and I've always wanted an AED because I wanted to shock cats. Like, I just wanted to watch them like fly in the air, like, and like,
My goodness.
I've always wanted to do that.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'd be covered by the Good Sam law for that. I'd probably be arrested. It's probably criminal. I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That I just think that would be so freaking cool to see. Like,
Generally frowned upon, I would think, but yeah. Okay.
yeah,
I see where you are.
right. I'd like to see that.
Okay.
Okay, so back to reality is us, and like if you had your own AED and you're certified, it's okay. Like, use it. Yeah, it's only going to be useful if somebody's like having a heart attack, number one, and if they're having a heart attack, it's only going to be useful in two scenarios: one if they have VTAC, and another one if they have VFib. All you cool people out there with medical knowledge, that's like the different heartbeats and electrical rhythms that go on in your heart. If you're certified, that's great. And if you use the AED, I don't really think the chances of something happening are great, because first, the AED is not going to fire unless one of those two heartbeats are actually happening. So that means you're in a heart attack, in a particular kind of heart attack. And second, because you're certified. So I think you're pretty protected there. I don't think anything bad's going to happen to you.
Okay. So,
but if you use it for a broken leg, that would be a problem.
Yeah. Well, at least get their mind off the pain, maybe. I don't know. But
right.
My next natural thought is that if you are in a situation, the Good Samaritan, the original story in the parable of the Good Samaritan, was a stranger. So you see a stranger, somebody you don't know, so on and so forth. Let's say you're at like a family event, big family get together picnic, and someone starts having a problem and you decide to step in. Does Samaritan laws apply for friends, family members, acquaintances, fictive kin, as it were, anything like that?
I don't think that's an issue, because everyone seems to be in, according to the Good Samaritan laws that I know, which is mostly in New York and a few other states, but there is this is a fact, okay? There is a Good Samaritan law in every single state of the country. Okay. So look up yours, okay? But as long as you're not paid to be at that family event, specifically for medical care of people who might like die or something like that if they eat a hot dog, I don't know, then I think you're covered. I don't think the family relationship matters, the friend relationship. I don't think any relationship matters unless it's a professional one, meaning that you're there paid to watch over people for a medical reason. I don't think it matters if it's family or not.
I guess the thing is, naturally, everybody's worried about some sort of legal issue that comes into play here. And I just want to get clarity on something, because I was a little unsure. When you brought up the law that we were looking at, are we talking like a criminal sort of law situation? And the reason I ask that is because if you violate this, there could be clearly a criminal legal thing coming up. But is there a possibility that this person could come at you civil lawsuits? And still, does this apply to both, or is it one or the other?
So for this one, I'm talking civil. This is only civil stuff. I don't even want to venture into the criminal. There is a Good Samaritan law on the criminal side, and that has to do with, reporting the use of, illegal substance and needing Narcan, or calling somebody up, saying, reporting like, hey, this guy just did a load of heroin or a load of coke, and he's high as a kite, and he's going to die unless you come help him. There's not going to be ramifications to the person reporting it, and there's not going to be ramifications to the person who actually did the drugs. So that's a Good Samaritan law, essentially, in New York on the criminal side. But we're just talking the civil side, as far as accidents and helping somebody injured. And that's New York. I'm not sure that in all other states, like there is on the civil side, that there's a criminal Good Samaritan law that protects people, for all the other states.
Got
So,
it.
just talking civil stuff.
Gotcha. In situations like I was mentioning earlier, where I was trained in CPR and using defibrillators and so on and so forth, in training and classes I've done, it was always like in a group setting. So in the drills that we would do, somebody would be in a distress of some kind. One person sort of takes the lead, then they say, you go call 911, you go get the AED. We got like a whole team thing going on here. I would assume that it covers everybody equally if there's multiple people stepping in. I don't know if there's like one ringleader that gets, because they're taking the lead role, do they get more exposed, or is it just everybody's covered?
No,
What about group rescue
it's
situations?
it's everybody. It's
Okay.
everybody who's involved in the rescue. So, if you're helping somebody out who's in distress, if they're hurt, injured somehow, go help them as long as you're not being paid for it. Like, so, you can't be like a doctor roaming around the roads. And even, like if you're an EMT, let's say we're talking about EMTs and you're an EMT and, you're volunteering, that actually is not going to be covered by the Good Sam laws. It's not going to be covered because you're expected to do something out there and you actually are compensated in different ways. Like you get certain benefits. So you're covered in a different way. There is insurance and coverage for all that, but I don't really think Good Samaritan laws are going to cover you. At least it's not your first line of defense.
Okay. Keeping in that same vein, because my mind goes all over. I try to think of all these possibilities here. Where you're located, like New York, up in the mid-Atlantic, up that way, very common to have people like, say, from Canada come to visit, especially up in more northern states. If someone is not a citizen, like a Canadian comes down to visit New York City and something like this happens, for people that are not Americans or New York residents, how does this apply to them?
So if you are in the United States and you are not a citizen of the United States, you have almost all of the same rights as a citizen, especially on the civil side. So if you're in the United States and you're a citizen of another country and you go to help somebody and you're in New York specifically, okay, and it could be any other state, but let's just say in New York, it would be covered by the law that you saw that, you're not going to get sued. Okay. Now, I can't speak to, let's say it's two Canadians, right? And they go back to Canada.
Oh,
I don't know
right.
what happens in Canada. I don't know Canadian law. Maybe they can get sued up there
Mhm.
or, in whatever country they're from. But if they are if they are present where a Good Sam law is also present, they are covered by that law and they are supposed to go help people and they're not going to be sued. It's supposed to encourage people to help others.
Got it. So we talked about in the law that came up about as long as you're doing the right thing and legitimately trying to help, but is there a way that somebody can misuse these laws? Is there like some things that people do in relation to this? Is that a thing?
I personally have never seen it misused other than, people claiming that, I can just imagine like they're claiming they're helping somebody and they're pulled off on the side of the road, but really there's nobody there. And they're going to say, Good Samaritan law. I was being a Good Samaritan. I saw somebody,
Yeah,
but nobody else saw anybody there. So they're just trying to get out of their responsibilities. But,
got it.
you
Okay.
know, like
I
there's
assume there's a lot
probably
of penalties if you do something like that, like false alarms and things. So it's
that
probably
would go, that would be a criminal thing. And
now
you
we're
don't want
okay.
to start doing
Now
that.
we're on the other side.
Yeah, yeah, that
Gotcha.
would be. Yeah, you don't want to start lying about that stuff. You don't want to start doing that. Bad idea.
So if we have a situation where there's an accident of some sort and someone witnesses it, now is there, for instance, let's say they want to help, maybe they're not comfortable putting their hands on someone, maybe it's COVID and we're worried about getting disease, whatever the case may be, and then they just decide the safest legal quote unquote choice is just call medical help and be done with it. By not by engaging but not actively intervening, do you bring any like negligence on yourself, anything like that? Or
Yeah, so that's a super good question too. Um, so first of all, okay, always try to activate the 911 system because that's like one of the first things you should do. Okay, make sure nobody's in immediate danger. Okay, and then as soon as you can, activate the 911 system. So call 911 to get some help, and because you're not gonna be able to do it all by yourself. The second thing is go help them. But if you're totally against helping and you're looking at them, well, you still have to prove negligence. Like, okay, had it not had this person gone and helped, this person would not have died, or had this person gone and helped, then the injury would not be as severe as it is now. Super hard to prove. Super hard to prove. I mean, that's crazy. And then if you do get sued for that, usually you'll be covered by insurance if you own a house because you have homeowners insurance, so that should cover you
Oh, really?
as
Okay.
a defendant. Yeah, but like let's say you're a renter and you have no coverage, or you're homeless and you have no coverage. Okay, maybe you can be sued, but I don't know. First of all, I don't know what they're going to collect out of you. They're going to try to get millions out of you, and you don't own a house. I mean, you probably don't have a lot of money either. That's number one. But number two is it's really hard to prove that proximate cause, it's called, right? Because there may have been a duty for that person to help. There may have been a breach of that duty of that person because they didn't go help. But you have to prove that the breach of duty, meaning they didn't go and help and they should have, was actually the cause of the person being injured more or even dying. And I don't know. How do you prove that?
Yeah.
How do you prove that?
Are there any situations where you would just advise somebody not to intervene at all? Is there a circumstance that would come to mind?
If it puts yourself in danger. So if you're going to, if somebody, yeah, I mean, a scenario that sort of happened, and it's a topic that is going to come up. Okay. It's called danger invites rescue. That's a totally different topic and totally different legal thing that I'm going to talk about in another episode. But
let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. It's so catchy. Danger invites rescue.
Love it.
All right. Pique your interest. Coming up soon. And also, while I have you, okay, comment below what you want to see me do and talk about on this podcast. I'm happy to do it. And like, subscribe, and share, people. Hook me up.
Thumbs up.
So, yeah. But let's say, a gas tanker is driving down the highway and goes off the road, and there's some flames, and this guy is, on the side of the road who is driving that, and he's kind of burning up in flames, and you want to go put the flames out of this guy, but if you get close, this tanker is going to explode and everyone's going to die. Yeah, don't go over there and die. That would be bad. So don't die. That would be a danger to yourself. So I could see that happening.
In the past, when we've done episodes, we've discussed situations where, let's say, an accident happens and you have like a series of steps that you advise people to take to make sure they're protected and everything is done properly. If someone decides to intervene and engage in a Good Samaritan scenario, what are like the steps that you suggest they do? Clearly help, but is there anything they need to do beyond that? Do they need to like file any reports, call anybody, 911 clearly, but is there anything else that we may be missing that we need to know?
Well, some steps to follow. First of all, is the scene safe? If the scene is not safe, then don't get out of your car. Don't get off your motorcycle. Don't stop. If the scene is not safe, you have to worry about yourself first, because that's only going to make the situation worse. Is the scene safe? That's the first thing, first consideration. Second of all, if you have them, put on what's known as BSI precautions, body substance. What's the I? Body substance stuff, right? You don't want that stuff on you. Blood, snot, saliva, gross stuff. You don't want that on you. So put on some gloves if you have them. Make sure you have some boots on or something like that. Like just be careful where you're walking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when you can, dial 911. Okay, but a lot of times, if you're on a motorcycle, you're going in the mountains or in places where there's no reception. So, yeah, try to call 911, but you might be this person's only hope. So, you got to go and do it. Just go do it, and you're going to be protected. But I would follow those steps for sure. And filing a report, well, just report it to the authorities for sure. But there's no special report that I know of that you have to file if you go and rescue somebody. It's only reporting it to the authorities, like the police.
Yeah, because if like police are going to show up, they're going to naturally ask what happened and question you and everything. So I would assume you want to get something on the record,
right,
in some way. So
yeah, that's definitely a good idea, especially if the person's unconscious. You want to, it's best to report it and give all the information you possibly can, because that's going to help things afterwards.
Yeah, like I think of certain scenarios that might happen. Like we talked earlier about someone passes out and you think it's a cardiac situation, so we're doing CPR. But a lot of times in crashes, even just car crashes as well, they always say don't move the person, because you could be like a neck injury, let's say, and moving them could make it worse. Especially on a motorcycle, you have a little more susceptibility to that. So if you're in a situation where maybe you have, for whatever reason, to remove someone's helmet, and maybe there's a neck injury, they get worse, or God forbid they die, for instance, does that change anything? I mean, is that because everybody says don't move the person? So is that,
I think you have to go back. I think you have to go back to the negligence standard. So the negligence is basically when somebody does something wrong, and gross negligence is when it is willful or wanton or reckless. So, for instance, if you know removing somebody's helmet is wrong, like you've studied this stuff, or I don't know, like you have some sort of special knowledge that removing the helmet is wrong, and you go and remove the helmet, well, that would be reckless. If you see that the person's situation is going to be worsened if you remove the helmet, and you have other choices and you still remove the helmet, that sounds pretty reckless. So don't do that. Like, basically, don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. If you do stupid stuff, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, right? Yeah. So don't do that. Don't do that. But a lot of times, by the way, if we're talking about helmets, if somebody's having a breathing issue, remove the helmet. Okay, I'm just trying to remove the helmet. And removing the helmets actually have become a lot easier because you have these emergency pulls on the cushions, and it makes removing the helmet a lot easier.
Okay. Yeah, it's like, so a lot of these little nuanced things that I just kind of, go through my mind, and I'm sure, like, how would you do this? Because person's in a car crash, don't move them. All right, well, the car's on fire and it may detonate. I'm gonna have to move them. It's going to end badly either way. So at least give them a fighting chance here. So I just think it's stuff like that.
Right, man.
And so I, naturally it's a worry, of course, for anybody doing that.
Yeah.
And what I'm very curious about is, we were saying earlier that laws tend to become laws for reasons or for certain situations. The Good Samaritan Law clearly came into being for a reason, but are there any famous cases, either New York or elsewhere, you're aware of that had like Good Samaritan Law used? With anything legal wise that's of interest?
I don't know of any crazy cases that happened. Actually, there was a case. Now that I'm thinking about it, there was a case where somebody was running on a track. It was like a quarter-mile track, and they pretty much, they had a heart attack, and somebody ran over and gave him CPR, and then the ambulance came and all that, and the guy survived, and he sued the person coming over to give him CPR, and of course, that didn't go very well for the person. Like, he lost the case. He really did lose the case because the jury hated the fact that he sued the person that came over and gave him CPR. Wow. I mean, that guy sued a bunch of other people, but that actually that happened not in New York. It was a case, I can't remember the actual state. I'm sorry, I'll get back to you. I'll put it in the comments. But that was part of a movement by all states to get the Good Samaritan laws on the books.
Gotcha. So it was sort of the trigger to everything, I guess.
Yeah.
With you functioning in different states, and every state having the law, does the law vary between the states? Is it like kind of carbon copy across the country, or do you see variations in like New Jersey, DC, anything like that?
It's not the same exact language. It's not verbatim, but it's very, very close. Some states actually take out the whole thing, like, the whole thing with payment. They actually, take that out and just say, was it voluntary? Some people say even if it's in a hospital, it's okay. So they take that language out. Some people say, okay, but it has to happen as a result of something that may have been an accident or unforeseen. They put in different language, but generally they protect people who do good, and they generally want to protect life. So also, governors love these kinds of things because they want to go for the vote. So they see a law like this and they say, sure, I'm going to sign it. Of course. I love everybody. I love that.
Sharpening up my pencil already.
Yeah. It's crazy. That's crazy, man.
So it just seems like little variations in word, but there's no real fundamental difference.
No, every single state in the union has this stuff. So anywhere you go, you're going to be protected. So just do the right thing. Stop and help, especially if somebody's going to die. That would be bad.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So anybody that is worried about this, anybody that is concerned, they are welcome to call you, right? And I have a number of 866-858-0919, ridingcounsel.com. Rich Jaffe, he's your guy right there. So what can, oh yeah, I got to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Shiny side up, rubber side down. That's what we say.
Yeah. You're getting it.
But I'm getting good at this. And so out there, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you would please be so kind, have you had the opportunity, or the situation, I should say, to actually be a good Samaritan? Have you done this? Have you had it done to you? And just tell us what happened, share your situation, whatever you're comfortable with. And I would like to hear more about it. So while you're there on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe, and definitely respond, everybody. Let's get a little conversation going. And what was that cool term you said earlier? I just forgot.
Shiny side up, rubber side down.
I already just forgot. We got so engrossed in this, I kind of forgot.
I don't know. Ishkabibble.
Rescue something or other. I don't know.
Danger invites rescue.
Danger invite rescue.
Danger invites rescue. Yeah,
that is so cool.
Yeah, that's coming. That's coming up. Also, a little teaser. Unless this plays, I don't know when exactly this is going to play in the segments, but I'm also going to have help for your DMV test. When you go for a DMV license, a written test. So we're going to go over some of the questions and answers there. That's going to be cool. But
car, motorcycle, both. What are we talking about?
What's that? No, motorcycle.
Okay.
Yeah, get your motorcycle endorsement.
Nice.
But I think that's all the time we're going to have for this episode of ridingcounsel.com.
Right. They need to make sure they comment, call you, ask questions.
Yeah, get active, and
bring a couple friends, tell them, bring them over. We're talking.
May pretend you're saving me. You'll be covered by the Good Sam law.
Come rescue our show.
Yeah, I mean, look at my face. It's gross. I need help. Look at
me. I'm damaged. Help me.
Bad. I bad industrial accident.
No cats, though, please.
Right.
Leave your cats at home.
Yeah, I will shock them. But I appreciate everybody.
Cats having a heart attack. We got.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, right. That's what I thought. It wasn't gross negligence.
Oh my goodness.
All right, man. So listen, good time. I hope this was helpful to all of you. It was a really pleasure to talk about it. Thanks a lot, Million, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
We're going to see you next time on the next episode of ridingcounsel.com. I'm Rich Jaffe, and I will see you next time. Stay safe, everybody. Keep it wild, but keep it legal. Take care.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Riding Counsel with Richard Jaffe. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the ride, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your fellow riders. Until next time, keep the rubber side down and ride safe.